Hey guys, Joe here. Moving back a little bit. I just had to hit record and move back. Thanks for checking out another video. Really appreciate it. 8,100 subs. Really appreciate that. My healing is going well from the surgery. It was pretty much a complete success, which is what we were hoping for this time. So hopefully I'll be able to get back to doing range stuff and actually being able to walk around. I have to relearn walking, which is a bitch at 42, but we'll get it done. So subscribe, come back for more videos, even just on that, because I'll make some updates. But today's video, if you read the title, is should you use an air gun for self-defense, home defense, or carry? The shortest answer I can give you is no, but it's more complicated than that, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to be using a couple of items for examples here. They came from Liberty Arms, Harrisonburg, Virginia. Check them out, Google them. I'm not allowed to link them, but Harrisonburg, Virginia. They can ship to any FFL in the United States if you find something that you want, and their prices are very reasonable, so tell them I sent you. What we have here today is two guns, and the question that I pose to you, oh loyal viewer, is which one of these is real? If your answer was the Smith & Wesson, you'd be wrong. This is an air gun. If you said the Beretta, you'd be right, because this is a real gun. And that is probably one of the biggest things that I want to talk about today, because of how similar they look to being real guns. And that's also the first point we're going to talk about. Here in the United States, I have the right to carry a firearm. Second Amendment protects my right to own and bear arms. In the state I live, I can open carry, which means if it's visible from three sides, front, back, and side, I can carry it openly, which does allow everybody to see that I am armed. And in the state that I currently reside, I am allowed to conceal carry my firearm, which means I can hide it from you. You don't have to know I have it, neither do the police. I have a permit for it, and I exercise that right because I work at a gun store part-time, and I carry cash when I'm doing personal business. So I have the ability to protect myself, as well as those around me, if the need ever arises. I know that in many countries, y'all aren't allowed to do that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Japan still does not allow citizens to own firearms. I know there's a lot of countries that are that way. I know some countries, such as like Great Britain, they're highly restrictive on what you can actually own. You have to apply for special licenses. I know their air guns are even regulated. Canada has basically tried to wipe all guns off the face of the planet outside of sport shooting and hunting. And there's different rules around the entire globe. So wherever you live, let me know down in the comments what the rules are for where you are. Because I have the right to own, possess, bear, and conceal firearms, I don't see the point of using an air gun for home defense. That being said, let's talk about why somebody would. When you look at this, this is an officially licensed product built by Umarex. They're a German company, but it's officially licensed through Smith & Wesson. Has the right trades on this side. The one thing that gives it away obviously would be on this side, but most people aren't looking at both sides. But this gun has what is called the replica gun. Not has, but it is a replica firearm. It is a duplicate 1-to-1 in terms of size as well as functionality. All the controls on this particular gun work just like the real steel version. And I've had the real steel version, so I can attest that it is accurate in virtually every respect, except for weight. It does have a removable magazine, which does simulate a fully loaded magazine. However, things like the slide, you can't do that with a real steel 40 cal because the spring is much too light in an air gun. But because it's a replica gun, it also doesn't have the regulated orange tip that an airsoft gun does. So from the rest of this video, I'm going to refer to these as BB guns and airsoft guns as airsoft guns. A BB gun shoots a 4.5 millimeter steel BB, which is also .177 caliber, or a pellet. This one is only BB capable. However, some guns are pellet and BB capable. An airsoft gun shoots a 6mm, and these are the most typical sizes, 6mm plastic BB. Airsoft is safe to shoot at other people, assuming you're wearing the correct protective gear, goggles, mask, protective clothing, long sleeves, etc. A 4.5mm BB is capable of puncturing skin much easier than a 6mm BB. Because this looks so real, people in countries that don't allow firearms may consider keeping one of these at home for the sheer intimidation factor. Because if you broke into a house and this is what you were met with, somebody pointing this at you, you would be forgiven for thinking this was an actual firearm, because unless you're looking for that little gold inner barrel in there, which is very hard to see, you would not know that this is not a real firearm. It looks just like a firearm. It's the same size as a firearm. And if you mount a light or laser on there, it basically, you would be expected to believe that it's a firearm. That would be a safe assumption. There is a major drawback to that, though, especially in countries where pistol ownership is almost completely outlawed, in that somebody breaking into your house sees a pistol, then they may just continue what they're doing because they don't believe this thing is real, which then leads into the second problem with using an air gun for protection, which is power. Because if you're forced to use this against somebody, it's not going to end well, unless you're John Wick and you can put one here, up here, and here, in here, something to that effect. You're not going to stop the threat that's being posed to you with a 4.5 millimeter BB gun. I'm going to break down the most common power figures for a U.S. market Smith & Wesson 40 cal BB gun. And this will apply generally across most air gun pistols that are like this. 12 gram CO2 BB will shoot at about 300 to 325 feet per second, which sounds fast, but it's not. It's going to produce less than 2 joules of energy. In terms of foot-pounds, it's anywhere from like 1.6 to 1.75 foot-pounds of energy. You can smack somebody harder than that gun can shoot you. For a comparison, a 380 Beretta, 380 ACP, which by far is the minimum, at least in my opinion, that you should be carrying, a 95 grain full metal jacket 380 ACP will travel upwards of 1,050 feet per second, depending on who manufactures it, and it will hit with up to 275 to 300 joules of energy, so anywhere from 205 to 250 foot-pounds of energy. This guy is going to stop a threat. This guy is going to piss off a threat. So that's the end of number 2. If you're forced to use it, this ain't going to get it done unless you get really lucky. This will. Problem number 3 with using one of these and carrying one of these is if you're out in public with one of these and, say, the police see you with it, especially a BB gun that doesn't have an orange tip. Now, some states require tape and orange tips on all their air guns. The state I live in, Virginia, does not require that. And typically replica air guns are not required to have them because they're not safe to shoot in public, so you really shouldn't be out with them anyway. But if somebody out in the public sees you carrying this, if you decide to be a dumbass and open carry an airsoft or an air gun, somebody sees it on your hip, shoulder carry, etc., they're going to call the police on you, especially if you're in a state that doesn't allow it. And when those police get there, they're going to, A, be forced to assume that this is a real firearm until proven otherwise, meaning once they've taken it from you and cleared it and you can demonstrate that it's not a real gun. But number 2, it's going to raise the question, why were you carrying it? Now, some people will say, oh, I'm carrying it to protect myself, I'm carrying it for this, I'm carrying it for that. That isn't going to really fly with law enforcement because you're representing that that's a real firearm. If it was bright orange and said not a gun on the side, you might be able to get away with it. But if any layman was walking down the street with this, you'd be forced to, hopefully using your brain, assume that it's a real gun. I would never look at somebody carrying something this shape down the street and go, oh, look, he's carrying a candy. No, first thing that's coming to my mind is, that guy's got a gun. And I'm going to look at the situation and determine whether or not I'm calling the police or pulling my firearm. And do you want to get into a firefight with me when I have a 45 ACP 1911 and you have a .45 or a 4.5 millimeter? I mean, it's not really safe, guys. So that's why, long story, no. You shouldn't use one of these for personal protection. You shouldn't use one for home protection. You shouldn't use one to carry. Because at the end of the day, it's going to get you hurt, killed, robbed, shot, stabbed, beaten, or put in jail because you're violating some kind of law. So longest story short, shorty tory short, tory flory blory. Long story short, don't do it. Short story at the beginning, don't do it. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. Again, let me know where you live, whether or not you're even allowed to possess firearms as a civilian, and I will be happy to read those and come back, because I do have the video of me fixing this, which was engulfed in a fire, and making it work again. So come back for that. Leave me a thumbs up if you like this video, comment, all that good stuff, and as always, I'll talk to you later.